Welcome to Answers for Living. I'm Pastor Dave, and today we begin to look at chapter 6 in Daniel. And we come to a very familiar story, the story of Daniel in the lion's den. But first, did you know that God loves to use older people? William Gladstone was the Prime Minister of Great Britain at age 83. John Wesley preached 3 times a day, 7 days a week, and he was 86 years old. Thomas Edison still was inventing when he was over 90 years of age. J.C. Penney still engaged in business at 85 years of age. And Daniel was about 90 years of age in this story. Darius the Mede took over the kingdom. He divided the kingdom into 120 divisions. He appointed 120 princes over those divisions. He appointed 3 presidents over the 120 princes, and Daniel was one of those 3. Daniel was so superior in his role that the king intended in elevating Daniel to number 2 in the kingdom. The 120 other princes were jealous, and they wanted to find something they could find any kind of dirt on Daniel. But they couldn't find grounds for accusation in government affairs, and there was no evidence of corruption, there was no negligence. He was beyond reproach. So they literally said they were going to have to use his commitment to God against him. He would have to make a choice. Would I disappoint my God or disrespect the king? So these princes came to Darius and said to the king that he should decree that no one should pray to any other god but Darius for 30 days. That he needed to write it in the law of the Medes and the Persians, therefore no one could change it. And Darius bit. Now, what would Daniel do? Well, when you read verses 10 to 12 of chapter 6, we discover after Daniel found out about the law, he didn't change one thing that he was doing. He followed through with what he did day after day after day. He could have closed the windows and no one would have seen him pray. He could have entered into a closet and prayed, but no. He prayed 3 times a day toward Jerusalem on his knees in front of his window. His enemies had spies outside of Daniel's house, and when they saw him praying, they went and challenged the king. You signed the law, you must feed Daniel to the lions. What do we know about Daniel? Well, he had a place of prayer. A place of prayer. He had carved out a spot that he would pray. I know a man personally who carved out a spot in his garage. He has a kneeling bench up against a wall with a tabletop on the kneeling bench for his Bible and his prayer journal. And every morning, 7 days a week, before he goes out of that house, he is found on his knees in prayer before God. Daniel also prayed toward Jerusalem. This was in response to 2 Chronicles chapter 6, verse 36 to 40, when King Solomon made the temple the house of prayer, and people who weren't in the house of the Lord would pray toward Jerusalem. Third, he was on his knees. It's the position of humility. Jesus prayed on his knees, Peter prayed on his knees, Paul prayed on his knees, and Stephen, when he was being stoned to death, dropped on his knees and asked God to forgive his executioners. And he prayed 3 times a day. He followed David's encouragement to pray in the morning and noon and evening. Daniel could have easily just changed his habits, and they would have never been able to accuse him. But he stayed true to his life commitments, and it could have cost him his life.